What's happening, guys? It's your boy Boxing Lowdown here, and welcome to episode number 21 of the TBL podcast. Not quite sure where Laurie's gone, but here he is, here he is, man. The guest, you know how we do every week. Mr. Laurie from AFTV is here. And what's happening, man? We got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, man. How you doing? Respect. Big up all the viewers, all the people watching, man. Tap in, smash the like button, man, because we've got some fire for you today. Fire!
Hit that like button, man, as always. And you know how we do it, man. Everybody that comes into the chat, leave your comments, anything you want to ask us. This is live. We're streaming live on Twitter and YouTube. So we're going to talk our piece, as we always do. And anybody in the chat, anybody that joins in, feel free to add your comments or happily read them out. And you know how we do it, man. We cook every week. So let's just get right into it, man. There's a lot to talk about today. And we're going to talk about, first of all, I know the title of the video is about Claressa Shields and her fight this weekend. But let's get the Canelo situation out of the way, because I know you're probably itching to talk about that. I know you probably can't wait to talk about Canelo. And big up Mohammed in the chat, first of all. He's put, come on, yeah, he's ready. He's ready for that smoke. So let's hear it, man. Canelo against Untitled ended out the way that we pretty much expected it to be. Untitled, it was still disappointing in my eyes because I didn't see anything. I didn't really see any sort of resistance coming his way. I was at least hoping that he would put up some sort of resistance against Canelo, or at least appeared to be trying. But to me, it just looked like when he got into the ring on Saturday night, he had the sparring partner mentality, didn't throw hardly any punches at all, didn't land anything really. And it was just a one-sided beating for 3 rounds. And then the corner pulled him out, and it was literally just a public sparring session. So, listen, we all knew what the end result was going to be, but let's hear it, man. Let's hear your thoughts on it. And we've got Jar Buddy in the chat here. He's put, Laurie's been waiting for days to say, I told you so. So, come on, let's hear it then. We knew it anyway, but let's hear what you got to say.
You know what? I'm not even going to try and take too much in the way of plaudits for this, because listen, the only surprise to me was that people were acting so surprised at what took place in the ring. I mean, to me, Untitled did not disappoint me, because that is exactly what I expected to happen. And that is exactly why Canelo chose it. And I use the word chose deliberately because, as I said on your show last week, and you asked me to provide the receipts, and for everybody watching out there, I did indeed provide my son with the receipts. Did I not, Daryl?
He did, yeah. He did.
I was able to document that it was Canelo and his team that selected Yildrim. I wouldn't say for this fight, for this encounter. That wasn't even a sparring session. You know what I mean? Let's be honest, man. The guy did nothing. I think he threw, in the 3 rounds, I think his stats were he threw 1 power punch. 1. I mean, you know what I mean? He should, if that fight took place in this country, there would have been cause for his purse to be withheld on the grounds that he weren't trying. But, you know, it's the Canelo show, ladies and gentlemen. This man does what he wants, when he wants, and how he wants. And it seems that the whole boxing world has to fall into line with it, which is why I'm one of the few people out there. Actually, I'm not one of the few now. It's growing, the amount of people that are questioning what's going on around Canelo. And I reiterate, I'm not hating on Canelo. I'm hating on the BS that surrounds this guy. So it's nothing personal. It's nothing to do with his abilities as a fighter, which are unquestioned. We know he's a very exceptionally talented fighter, which, by the way, makes it more sad that he's going on this way. You know what I mean?
If that was a sparring session, they would have. If that was a sparring session, they would have stopped that after a couple of rounds anyway. Because he's not throwing.
What I know about boxing, if that was a sparring session, Canelo's team would have got together some cash at the end of the day and say, "Listen, thanks, but we're not calling you back for no more sparring because you're not giving us any work." You know what I mean? Yeah. But he was chosen for a reason by Canelo's team because they just wanted to get in there, basically, shake some more rust off or whatever it is. And they move forward to the next victim, Billy Joe Saunders. You know what I mean? So meanwhile, you're ducking the main challengers out there. You're ducking Benavidez. You're ducking Charlo.
Got another comment here from Conrad Boxing, and he said, big up Conrad, man, first of all, always here, always showing support, man. So big up Conrad. He's put exactly, Laurie. I looked it up as well. Suleiman literally said in 2020 that Canelo requested Yildrim was not ordered by the WBC. So yeah, you got back up there. Look, I just wanted the receipt. That's all. You sent it to me. I've held my hands up. Cool. And
imagine if Roger Federer was defending his Wimbledon title and he said, you know what, I don't want to play Nadal or Djokovic or any one of those guys. I want to play the world 200th. And when I beat him, I will be the Wimbledon champion. Imagine how that would go down with tennis fans. Boxing fans, why are you putting up with this, man? You know what I mean? Why? This is the sport of boxing. It's not Canelo's personal fiefdom. We're entitled to be objective and to ask questions, you know what I mean? When people like Canelo are ruining the sport through that three-headed monster that I spoke to you about. And let me reiterate what they are. Pence, cherry picking and ducking. And Canelo epitomizes all three. And yet still, for a lot of people, he's a pound for pound face of boxing. It's ridiculous, man. In fact, it's more than ridiculous. It's bordering on the disgusting now. You know what I mean?
What about his next? What about the announcement? They had the video ready. Do you know what I mean? It was literally as soon as Yildrim barely left the ring before they put the Saunders video up. But yeah, they announced that he was going to be fighting Billy Joe Saunders next. That was projected. We kind of knew that was on the cards, but it's official now for May the 8th. I'm happy that this fight has been made because it's a huge opportunity for Billy Joe Saunders. He needs this sort of fight in his life. I don't know if it's come too late, but he needed this big showdown. And he's going up against, you know, the best he can go up against. So Billy Joe Saunders against Canelo. 3 of the 4 belts will be on the line May the 8th. What's your thoughts on that?
It's another selected opponent. And listen, no disrespect to Billy Joe Saunders. He's a very talented fighter, but come on, man, he's not going to win this fight. Obviously, this fight makes more sense than the Yildrim fight because he got a belt. But my problem with this fight is, once again, it's cherry picking. He's going after Billy Joe Saunders to collect his strap. You know what I mean? When Benavidez had a strap, we weren't hearing none of this talk about unification. All of a sudden, Benavidez stripped of his belt, so he's out the way for the time being. I would imagine that Canelo's going to beat Billy Joe, and he's going to beat him fairly comfortably. Listen, I hope I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it. He's going to beat Caleb Plant. Now, I'll give Caleb Plant a much bigger shot of upsetting Canelo than I do Billy Joe Saunders. But really? I don't Caleb. No, the reason, listen, with Caleb Plant, I've got no doubts of his skills and ability, right? But the problem for Caleb Plant is that he doesn't punch that hard. And you're not going to get a decision over Canelo right now in boxing because it's just too political. That's my personal belief. And the same goes for Billy Joe. Although, like I said, both athletically and skills-wise, I don't put Billy Joe right now at the same level as Caleb Plant because I think that, for number one, Billy Joe is fighting outside of his optimum weight class. I think he's a middleweight, not a super middleweight. I also think that even though he's relatively young, 31-2, there's miles on the clock there because he hasn't done what he should have done in terms of being active and, you know, showing due care and attention to his craft. He's been out there doing a lot of dumb shit, let's be honest, blowing up in weight, not taking fights seriously, and that's showing himself in the ring. I mean, listen, question for you and the people watching this live stream, yeah? Be honest, when was the last time Billy Joe Saunders looked good in the ring? That was David Lemieux about 4 or 5 years ago.
All right, let me answer that. I'll go to the comments here first of all. Mohammed Zishan has put here, Canelo versus Yildrim is the equivalent of AJ versus Tom Little. Ian Hamilton has said here, big up Ian Hamilton in the chat, man. He's put, this is like when Tyson beat Selden. Anyone remember him? Then Don King straight afterwards announced Tyson versus Holyfield. And Mohammed has put here, I honestly see Billy Joe winning it. I don't know why. And listen, this whole thing about Billy Joe Saunders, yeah, big up Big Lou in the chat here. He just put Billy Joe Saunders' inactivity will cost him. But let me get on to answering your question, yeah? Like, look, Billy Joe Saunders, we know how talented he is. You know, he's got talent, he's got skills, and he hasn't looked very impressive in previous fights. I know that. So on the eye test, you're looking at it and you're thinking, this recent form is not going to be able to do anything against Canelo. Now, I'm not picking Billy Joe to beat Canelo, but I'm not just wiping his chances out like you are. I think he's got a chance. If he he fights to the level of his opponent. You look at when he fought against Shefat Isufi, Martin Murray. I can't even pronounce his name. Martin Murray. You know, the Argentinian guy. Like, these guys, he's that type of fighter where he fights to the level of his opponent. Against Canelo, I think we're going to see the best Billy Joe Saunders that we could see. I'm not saying it's going to be enough, but I think he'll be competitive. He'll be much more competitive than Callum Smith, in my honest opinion. I think he'll give up a better effort than him.
I'm just marveling how you managed to keep a straight face when you're talking about Shefat Isufi. Come on, bro. I mean, listen, Darryl, I know you're making a good case for Billy Joe Saunders. And like you, I would like Billy Joe Saunders to win that fight. I've actually met Billy Joe a few times when I used to hang around with Coogan, IFL TV. Shout out to Coogan IFL TV, by the way. I've met the guy, and listen, I know he does some pretty wacky, goofy stuff outside the ring, but when you meet him, he's actually a very personable guy. We've actually spoke to him as well from a football perspective, because he's an Arsenal supporter. I don't know if people know that, but he is. So I've spoken to him on the phone. We tried to get him in the studio a couple of times. He said he wanted to come on the channel, which we were very appreciative of. So listen, man, I want him to win. I'm going to put my cards on the table. But if I'm being honest, man, if I'm speaking, you know, not with my heart, but with my head, you've got to say, man, that the chances of Billy Joe beating Canelo in America or wherever it's going to be, it's not going to be in this country, is, you know what I mean, slim and none. And Slim just left town. I just don't see it. He doesn't punch hard enough. He's not mobile enough at this stage in his career. He's not progressed in the way we thought he would. So he's not hit those levels consistently to beat a guy like Canelo. And we all know that if Billy Joe does make it to points, right, there's no way on earth that he's going to get a decision over Canelo. So how does he beat him? Do you think he'll stop Canelo? Really? Billy Joe's not a puncher. He couldn't even get Martin Murray out of it. No disrespect to Martin Murray, but he didn't even seriously hurt Martin Murray in that fight. You know? So Canelo, for whatever you want to say about him or whatever I say about him, the guy has one of the best chins in boxing. He stood toe-to-toe with Triple G for 24 rounds, who's a noted puncher, and they couldn't budge him. He's fought other big punchers. They couldn't really budge him. You know what I mean? I think he got staggered when he was about 19 or something by Miguel Cotto's brother or something like that. You know what I mean? But his chin is sturdy, man. Like I said, I'm not questioning Canelo's talents and abilities. What I question is the bullshit that surrounds it. And I think as part of that is the decisions that he gets. The decision over Trout, a lot of people thought he lost that. I thought it could have gone the other way. The decision against Lara, many people thought he lost that. Personally, I actually gave that to Canelo because I thought Lara was a little bit too negative on the night, certainly in terms of when it comes to dethroning the champion. But when he fought Floyd, he got absolutely schooled in that fight, absolutely schooled. Yet still one of the judges had it a draw. So you tell me how Billy Joe's going to get a decision over Canelo, the so-called cash cow, the so-called face of boxing, the so-called pound-for-pound champion, when, you know what I mean, you're fighting a guy like that, not in your own country as well. No, it's not going to happen.
Let's go to the comments here. Big Lou in the chat. What's going on, bro? He's put, good point. Billy Joe Saunders will be more competitive than Callum Smith. Yeah, I definitely think he will be. I think he will be. Ian Hamilton has put here.
More competitive than Yildrim. I know that.
Ian Hamilton has put, for me, Canelo is getting better and better with every fight. Saunders hasn't looked good in ages. Needs a 10 times better performance than against Lemieux. Can I see it? I don't know. Yeah, he's going to have that sort of performance. Canelo's going to have an off night. It's just going to have to be, you know, something. But these things can happen. Do you know what I mean? Nobody predicted Buster Douglas would beat Mike Tyson and so on. You know, there are upsets in boxing.
You're getting one big thing there, though. When Buster Douglas pulled off that upset, he knocked Tyson out. Because I'm going to tell you now, the way boxing works, had that gone to the scorecards, he probably wouldn't have got a decision. Just saying, you know what I mean?
My point is, upsets can happen, and for me, I like this fight because I mean, I think that we get to see Billy Joe Saunders in a huge fight, and it's been something that we've all been calling for. For Canelo, he gets to add another belt to the belts that he has already, and it's one step closer to Undisputed. You know, I'm not mad at this fight. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, but you said you weren't mad at the Yildrim.
We got Shane here in the chat. Big up, Shane. Shane has put here, I don't think he has to knock him out, because if Saunders beats him in the eyes of the masses but gets robbed on the cards, his profile will still increase.
Yeah, you say, did it increase Lara's profile? Did it increase Austin Trout's profile? Maybe for a month or 2 years. But, you know.
Yeah, but it's different now, isn't it? I mean, he's the biggest star in boxing right now.
No, what he's saying that if Saunders takes him to points and lose, it'll increase his profile in the eyes of the masses. Yes, it will temporarily, but long term, what would that mean? You know what I mean? It won't last for that long. You know what I mean?
Muhammad has put here, no one expected Tyson to knock out Wilder. Very true. Very true. No one expected Fury to knock Wilder out, did they? You didn't?
No, I didn't. But you know what? Let's be honest, man. That was not a massive upset, because at the end of the day, a lot of people thought that Tyson Fury won the first fight. You did, didn't you? When I spoke to you after that fight, you said that you thought Tyson Fury won that fight clearly.
Yeah, but it's not that he won; it's that he knocked him out.
No, I said that. I said that you could also argue that Wilder should have got the knockout in that fight, because you know what I mean. It's a statistical fact that he had Fury on the floor for over 10 seconds. I think the Daily Mail, it was one of their boxing writers, Jeff Powell. He's an esteemed boxing writer, and he come out with an article where they said that they timed it from the minute that Fury hit the floor to when he got up, and it was 13.5 seconds. So that's not just me saying that, you know what I mean? That is a statistical fact. So what I was arguing at the time is that, yes, Fury won rounds, but it could also be argued that Deontay Wilder could make a case of feeling robbed because he felt that he knocked Fury out. But in terms of the actual fight, most people agreed with you, Daryl, and said, listen, man, Tyson Fury won that fight. So if he wins a rematch, it's not exactly a big upset, is it? Because
no, but we're talking knockout. We're not talking about winning.
Yeah, I get that. But in terms of an upset, that was not a big upset, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. So, but the Billy Joe Saunders fight, trust me, that'll be one of the biggest upsets in boxing, in my personal opinion.
Conrad Boxing has said here, that is why I actually back up Yildrim. They paid him to get knocked out. He just took the money and left.
That's what I said. I said to you in the days after the fight, Daryl, you know, I'm not just saying this now, am I? I said to you, I can't understand why people are getting so disappointed and throwing their hands up and hollering and screaming. You should have seen this before, when people like me were telling all you guys out there, man, that Canelo and his team had gone to the WBC and requested this fight, right? And a lot of people didn't believe me and you know what? I don't blame them for not believing me, because it sounded so absurd that could happen in boxing. But these are the types of things that happen with Canelo Alvarez. You know what I mean? The clenbuterol stuff. When all of a sudden the WBC up the levels of clenbuterol, which means that from now on or from then on, Canelo's not going to fail any of their tests. You know what I mean? And people don't see this stuff, man, or they refuse to see it. They just want to see the head movement and the knockouts, and they want to fall in line. It's just like people just dick riding Canelo, man. You're not fans of boxing. You're just fans of this one guy. And I don't get it, man. Boxing is bigger than Canelo, whether you guys out there would want to believe that or not. He's not bigger than the sport itself, even though he acts like he is. But he's not. And the reason why he's allowed to get away with this is because us as fans, no one's checking him. No one's G-checking it and saying, nah, man, this is out of order. Rare, putting pressure on the sanctioning bodies. They're just saying, yeah, but he's pound for pound, Laurie. Yeah, but he surely deserves that, doesn't he? Bro. Oh, yeah, but he did it. Come on, man. You know what I mean? Are you a fan of the sport or are you a fan of Canelo? Which one? That's what I want to ask the people out there.
Big Lou in the chat has put here, yeah, but Fury had a big weight advantage. Billy Joe Saunders won't have that. He's referring to that comment about Fury knocking out Wilder. Yeah. Shane's put a comment here. You know, Shane, I was literally going to say this as well, but I wasn't sure. I was going to have to fact check. But he's put here, we can't forget that one judge had Kovalev up against Canelo in the 11th round before he got knocked out. Kovalev was up. He was up. And in that fight, I know Kovalev and Billy Joe Saunders are different fighters, but Kovalev was up. Not by a lot. I think he was still heading for a split decision lost because it was only one judge. But I think he was up on one judge's card.
All I'm going to say about that fight is that I felt slightly uncomfortable watching how that fight played out. And I'm not going to say any more than that. Well, what I will say is that I've never seen Kovalev look so tentative in a fight. Have you?
No, I haven't.
The Crusher, a man who has killed a man in the ring before and knocked out several opponents. You're talking about a guy that absolutely beat up and demoralized and smashed John Pascal to pieces. And when John Pascal approached him after the fight to squash the beef that they had before the fight, this man took his hand away and said, "No, I'm not shaking your hand." And you go from that to a guy that's tentative, non-aggressive, and wanting to touch gloves through the fight. Remember, there was a couple of times in that fight when Kovalev was touching gloves at the stuff. and those things just made me kind of a little bit.
Yeah, but wasn't that fight a couple of months after the Yard fight? Weren't that a couple of months? And he was like,
yeah,
he was really fatigued in that fight.
Yeah, when you factor in that, the fact that they gave Kovalev a couple of weeks to prepare, it seemed like, and then on top of that, they put a rehydration clause in that fight as well. So, you know what I mean, Kovalev couldn't rehydrate to his normal levels. What you saw in the ring, what transpired in the ring, was a very flat and uninspired and seemingly undermotivated Kovalev that made me look at that fight and think to myself, you know what? Boy, I'm uncomfortable around watching this, man. Something's not quite right. Now, that's just my personal view. I've spoken to a few other people online who share similar views, but, you know, that was how I felt at the time.
Shane's got another comment here. He's put, let's keep it real. Some people still say Triple G beat Canelo and it has been used as leverage for Triple G.
I think in the first fight, you could make an argument for Triple G winning. Not the second fight. I had Canelo winning that. But for the first fight, yeah, I thought you could have given it to Triple G. You know what I mean? In talking of ducking, he's another one, isn't he? I'm hearing how he turned down a 2-fight deal to fight Charlo, which would have made him millions upon millions of money. 2-fight deal to unify the belts. He's turned them down because he wants to fight Jaime Munguia.
You got Shane going now. You got him going. He's put, but Laurie, you're proving my point. Are old and rehydrated, tired and sorry, let me read that again. Laurie, you're proving my point. Are old and rehydrated, tired and unenthusiastic and flat and unmotivated Loco still was up on the cards by one judge.
Okay, but what is Shane's point? What is he trying to say? That Billy Joe, because Kovalev did that, you're saying that, you're conflating that and saying that Billy Joe can win a decision. I'm saying to you that even if that is true, which I don't doubt it, I know Shane knows his boxing. Shout out to Shane. But that was just one card. What about the other two? I bet you weren't up on the other two cards. You're not getting it over Canelo, man.
He wasn't. He wasn't.
Yeah, you're not getting no decision over Canelo like that. Billy Joe Saunders isn't, that's for sure. You know what I mean? I'm telling you that now, man.
So what does he have to do then? What for him? Do you see? Has he got no chance for you then?
He's got no chance.
No chance at all.
I don't think so. No. If Billy Joe Saunders beats Canelo, it will be the best result by a British boxer since Lloyd Honeyghan stopped Donald Curry back in the 80s. And again, notice I say the words Lloyd Honeyghan had to stop Donald Curry.
Yeah.
Because he probably weren't going to get the decision. A bit like with Tyson Fury, he probably thought in that second fight, you know what, I'm going to have to go out and put it on Wilder because they robbed me the first time. That was probably his mindset. Fortunately for him, or not fortunately, because, you know, he did his thing and he deserved the win. But can you see Billy Joe doing that to Canelo, a guy with probably the best chin in boxing right now?
I could see him having his moments in there.
But with respect, Darryl, having your moments is not winning the fight.
No, I'm not picking him to win the fight.
Okay. Right.
I'm not picking him to win the fight. I could see him having his moments, but I don't think it'll be enough to beat Canelo.
I could see him having moments as well. And I've actually said to you during the week that I've been quite impressed with the way that Billy Joe Saunders' attitude towards Canelo is not one of deference. Certainly not so far anyway. I like the way that he's not at every opportunity calling Canelo pound for pound and saying how great he is and this is going to be a great fight and I'm going to go in there and give my best. No, he's saying that, listen, I'm going to go in there and box his ears off. Canelo's never met a guy like me. And listen, I respect that. I also respect the fact that unlike some of these other guys like Charlo and Andre, chartering planes from where they live to go and watch Canelo fight. What's all that about, man? You know what I mean? You're supposed to be a rival. You're supposed to be calling this man out. You're turning up to his fights, legitimizing his fights, authenticating his fights. This guy, Canelo, doesn't even call Charlo's name or Andre or Plant. You know what I mean? Yet these guys, not Plant, but Andre and Charlo, what are you doing? Turning up to the man's fight. You know what I mean? Like, you're acting like a fanboy of his.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit... Because Canelo don't turn up to your fights.
Yeah, he don't turn up. Listen, he won't even mention these guys' names. I've heard stories about, and I think this is true as well, I've heard stories that in press conferences previously, the reporters have been instructed not to mention Charlo's name. He don't want to hear no questions about it. You know what I mean? He doesn't like talking about them. He won't mention them. And yet you got all these guys, man. You know, him, Andre, even guys like Crawford. What are you doing there? Canelo's not turning up to your fights. He's not showing you that love. You know what I mean? You're part, these guys are part of the problem, the way they treat Canelo. You know what I mean? All going over there with the little silly Gucci stuff and big chains and all this type of stuff in pictures, posting, yeah, we're at the Canelo fight. Have you ever seen Canelo at any one of these guys' fights? Ever? Does he? The only time I've seen Canelo is two fights I've seen.
He was at Ruiz Joshua
and Ryan Garcia when he fought Luke Campbell. He's very selective in what he does. He's very strategic, Canelo. I've got to give him that. He's a very smart guy. He's playing chess. Charlo, Andrade, and all these other guys, they're playing checkers. You know what I mean? They're showing deference. That's why, as well, and I just want to say this out there, I mean, you know what I mean? If they fought, even though I've accused Canelo of ducking these guys, that doesn't mean to say that they're going to beat him. Because, again, Charlo fights Canelo. Unless you knock that guy out or drop him 2, 3, 4 times, you're not going to get a decision. And what we've seen with people who fight Canelo, right, is that even when they go the distance, they're not really going all out to win. Callum Smith is a case in point. You know what I mean? He talked a good one before the game. Him and his brothers were saying they're going to do this. And when he got in there, I'm sorry to have to say, man, that talk was not matched by the effort and the output in the ring. Callum Smith has even said so himself, so I'm not dissing him.
Let's go to some more of the comments here. Shane's put, I get that point. I feel like Canelo will never lose on the cards, but I'm talking about in the eye of the masses. And he's put, in the eyes of the masses, if Saunders gets robbed on the cards, the masses will look at it like another Tim Bradley and Manny. Mohammed Zishan has put, if Canelo becomes undisputed champion at super middleweight, what do you think he would do after?
I actually think that he might give up the belt and say, look, I've cleaned out that division and either drop down to middleweight or go to light heavy and choose somebody he can beat. I don't think he'll defend against Benavidez or Charlo. I'm starting to, you know what I mean? Because I just can't trust this guy, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know what he'll do, but I could see a scenario whereby he would not stick around long enough to defend those belts.
Ian Hamilton has said here, in fairness, does Canelo need to call people out when he's number one? The others, for me, should make him uncomfortable, so he has to fight them. Do AJ and Fury turn up at each other's fights? Just a thought. Yeah, Fury had the opportunity to turn up at AJ's last fight. He declined it. He was like, I'm not going there. But with Canelo, yeah, I mean, when you're in that position, like, he calls the shots, doesn't he? Like, so who's he calling out? Should he be calling out Charlo? Should he be calling out Benavidez?
No, I'm not saying he has to call him out. I'm saying that every once in a while, man, you have to fight the guys that are in and around your way that offer you a serious challenge, because what that does is to improve your legacy and solidify you as the best fighter in the world. But what I'm saying is Canelo, we already know that he's one of the best fighters in the world, but he's very strategic in how he manages his career. I've got a question. I've got a question, yeah? So Canelo, let's say by the end of September, he's fought Callum Smith, Untitled with an asterisk next to it, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant, and he wins them all. That's 4 fights in the space of like, what, 9-10 months? Like, you look at that compared to another elite fighter on the pound-for-pound list, like Crawford, Inoue, Usyk, whoever you want to call. Who would, like,
does that not even that doesn't impress you at all? You're looking at like he's fighting these guys in this space of time compared to others who are probably only going to fight once or twice if you're lucky. You're still going to get at him for that. You're still going to hold him in regard to that compared to the others.
If he goes on and fights the challenges that we want to see, the guys that we know,
no. If he fights, like if he does go through Smith and obviously Yildrim, Saunders, and then Caleb Plant, which is what he's planning to do, if he gets through those guys in the space of 10 months, you look at that compared to anyone else at the top level, elite level, who's doing that?
Yeah, I will give him credit for that, but I still want to see him take on the serious challenges. And I'm saying to you that, unfortunately for Billy Joe, I don't see him as a serious challenger to Canelo. I can see why he's going after why Canelo's going after Billy Joe, because like you said, he holds a belt. So yeah, that fight makes sense, because if you do that, you're on your way to cleaning up the division. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not holding that against him. And if he beats Billy Joe, fair play. He would have done what I expected him to do, but he would have beaten him nevertheless. I'd be more impressed if he beats Plant though, because Plant is a young, ambitious guy coming into the prime, what we think might be the prime of his career. You know what I mean? He's got a belt, he's looked good, and that would be a good fight. And I think it will be a very competitive fight. Do I think Caleb Plant will beat Canelo? Probably not. But then having said that, you've heard me say all along that Canelo's a great fighter. What I'm saying is, I want to see Canelo take on guys that are going to represent a meaningful challenge.
Okay,
and so far throughout his career, we have not seen that.
Let's go to the comments here. Conrad Boxer has put, if your franchise status allows you to request anyone as a mandatory and you request Yildrim, you don't go for the best. Yeah, but he's not franchise champion at super middleweight. That was at middleweight. I don't agree with that Conrad. Shane's put here, Ian Hamilton, you seem like okay, he's going for Ian in that one. Big up Ade, man. Big up Ade Oladipo in the chat. Boxing Talk with Ade. What's going on, bro? Myself and, like my dad, he watches your channel a lot. So good to have you here.
Yeah. Let me just say, man, big up to Ade. I watch a lot of his stuff online. I've also seen him on Sky. Very lucid, very articulate, very knowledgeable guy. But sometimes, Ade, I've got to get you on the show, man, because sometimes I think you've been a little bit too kind to people like Canelo. We need people like you in the game to call these men out, man. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Let me read this comment here. Ade's put, Canelo is very interesting. All fighters want to fight the fights. Canelo can make them happen because he brings money to the table. If the others did have the money, I think they would do the same. Look at Errol Spence. He's a classic example of that. Yeah. Made the money. Look how he's acting now. They're all selective.
Well, so now you agree with me, Daryl. You see what I'm saying now? Because if you got the so-called pound for pound, the face of boxing acting in this way, as in a lot of environments in life, that trickles down. Everyone wants to start doing it. And that is the danger. And I know people are going to say, yeah, what about Floyd? Floyd did do a lot of this as well. I'm not going to lie, and I didn't like it. The only thing I would say with regards to Floyd is Floyd had already had his legacy in the bank when he started doing this stuff. If you look at the trajectory of Floyd's career, up until late, he'd fought and beaten all the great names out there.
Let's go to some more comments here. Big up Big Lou in the chat. He's put, Canelo's all about the commercial side of boxing. That's why he chose fielding. Easy chance for a belt. Yeah, he's right. He's right.
And if people are happy to see that nonsense, then I would question their validity as real boxing fans. What you're basically telling me is that you're a Canelo fan and boxing is just, you know what I mean? You don't really care about how the sport operates and runs. All you're in is watching your favorite fighter beat down guys like Rocky Fielding and Yildrim so you can say, oh, what a great fighter he is. I'm saying I already know he's a great fighter. I want him to prove himself as one of the best fighters out there and put his legacy down by, listen, look at the way we talk about guys like Hagler, Hearns, Leonard, Duran, Ali. You know what I mean? Look at the reverence of which these guys are held in. Do you think we're talking about them because of they were having fights like the Yildrim one? And when I say fights, I use that term loosely because it wasn't a fight.
Big up Jeff, man, in G5 Jeff TV in the chat here. We was on a great live stream with him yesterday, man. My guy Jeff, brilliant to be on that, man. Enough respect to Jeff, man, every time. And good to have you in the chat, bro.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Jeff's, man. The way he hosted that show yesterday was excellent.
Brilliant. It was brilliant.
He had like 4 guys on there, and we're all opinionated, and we all want to get our say. And the way he moderated that and hosted it, big up, man. And he knows his stuff too.
That's definitely. If you haven't subscribed to Jeff, man, do so, please. Great channel, man. He's doing great things over there. Shane's put, Lowdown, can you answer the question as well? Because you like to defend Canelo. All right, look, I'm going to go on to this, yeah, but we've got other stuff to talk about. We're 35 minutes into this podcast, and we're still talking about Canelo. All right, let me get this. Well, let me get this question up. Let me get it up for him. All right, so he's put, Ian Hamilton, you seem like a Canelo fan, so can you answer this question, please? I'm begging anyone to answer why instead of fighting Andrade for Undisputed, he fought Rocky Fielding. Look, you've already asked me this. I've already answered it. He moved up in weight. I'm sure you asked me this last week, Shane, but he moved up in weight to fight Rocky Fielding. I'm not defending it, but it was another it's another thing to say, like what Gervonta Davis is doing, where he's moving up to fight this Barrios guy. Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. It's like what Broner did. You're moving up in weight to say that you've got this belt in this weight class and whatever. And like, it was an easy sell. He's got a DAZN deal right now. He's got a certain amount of fights on that deal. And I'm not justifying it, but that's why he did it. Because Rocky Fielding was an easy target up at super middleweight. He took the strap and then he went back down or he went back up, whatever. Like, it went up to fight Kovalev after that. I can't remember.
That's why we should talk about more guys like Terence Crawford. That's why his claim for #1 pound for pound is much more legitimate than Canelo's, in my opinion, because he's seeking to make the big fights. He's calling that he's a champion, right? He could easily just take the fighters that Top Rank are throwing him at the moment and just carry on. But he's actively calling out Errol Spence, right? Actively wanting to get in the ring and fight him. That's what I like to see. You know what I mean? Instead, we got Canelo actively trying to fight Yildrim. I want to see Canelo because he's the so-called face of boxing, right? He can make things happen, right?
Okay, Conrad Boxing.
Charlo, I'm sick of people hearing that Charlo can beat me. He's my next fight. That's what I want to see from him.
Conrad Boxing has put here, Suleiman in 2020, Alvarez contacted the WBC and requested to fight Yildrim for the title, and that is absolutely one of the privileges he has. Okay, so that's referring to your comment. Okay, fair enough, because you did mention that earlier. So that backs up your point, what you said, Laurie, about him requesting the Yildrim fight. Yeah. So Alvarez contacted the WBC and requested to fight Yildrim for the title, and that is absolutely one of the privileges he has in having a franchise designation. And listen, the WBC are, you know, they're moving like a cancer right now in the game. Like, a lot of the things they're doing is horrific. And to be after this fight, Suleiman came out and was like, "Oh well, you know, we're gonna have to review our process in the future and all this garbage." And I'm just like, "Look, man, it's not washing with me." Do you know what I mean? Like, you knew what this was about, and no one asked for this. How did Yildrim become a mandatory in the first place when he was out the ring for like 700 odd days? Do you know, it is ridiculous. I do have to say that. But look, we have to move on because literally there are other stuff to talk about. And we're 38 minutes in. I want to get your opinion on Claressa Shields because she's fighting this weekend. She's going to be going for Undisputed herself, actually. She's actually looking to become a 2-time Undisputed champion in boxing. And it'll be the first person to do that, man or woman, since the 4-belt era. So she's going to be going for that this weekend against Marie-Eve Decaire. And Decaire, she's a Canadian fighter. I don't know much about her, but she's undefeated as well. And, you know, if Claressa Shields can do it, then, you know, like, she's making history. I want to get your thoughts on some comments that she made, though. She made some comments recently, and one of the comments that she said was that 98% of men would not be able to beat her. And we know that she's got previous in this because she said that she'd beat Keith Thurman. She said that she'd beat Triple G. Now, a couple of podcasts ago, we were talking about Claressa Shields, me and you, and Jar Bunny left a comment. And he was saying, you were talking about Claressa Shields and were defending her. And Jar Bunny was saying, some of the things she says, though, is why a lot of people are not really into her. Is this what this could be what he's talking about here? What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, Claressa does talk some real corny shit, man. I don't, a lot of stuff that comes out of her mouth, I don't really associate with. But that should not detract from the fact that she's an excellent fighter. And as far as I'm concerned, in women's boxing, as of right now, she is head and shoulders above everybody else, to the point where I get very annoyed when I listen to Sky and it's people like Matt Macklin and Johnny Nelson. And even though I like Johnny, but I just think he's out of pocket when you say Katie Taylor is the best pound for pound women's boxer. That is simply not the case. And I think deep down, these guys know this as well. They're just selling the whole Katie Taylor brand to the people who are uninitiated, the casuals. And by that, I think they're doing boxing a disservice. Again, boxing is being done a disservice by people in the game. That being said, to answer your question, yeah, listen, some of the stuff that comes out of Claressa Shields' mouth is a little bit corny. She doesn't promote herself the best. The stuff that she said about Thurman and one or two others, I thought that was very disrespectful, to be honest, because she wouldn't last around with Keith Thurman. And I'm a big fan of Claressa. So to say that, I just thought was some stupid shit. This latest one about she could beat 98% of men, I can only think that the fight that she's got this weekend, which she should be focusing on, not talking about men, by the way, she's got pay-per-view to sell. So I think it was just a corny attempt to draw some attention to the fight and around some publicity, some free publicity around her name. Because listen, she keeps going on about I sparred with Errol Spence and I held my own. Come on, man. Number one, Errol Spence wasn't going out to hurt Claressa. I'm pretty sure about that. And number two, even if you did hold your own with Errol Spence in sparring, how does that transmit to you beating the likes of Keith Thurman? She said she could beat Triple G. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's nonsense. And you'd like to think that she would carry herself a bit better than this. So yeah, I do agree with Jabani, man. She could have presented herself in a better light and won more fans if she'd have just conducted herself a little better. You know what I mean? One thing about Katie Taylor, you would never hear any of this come out of Katie Taylor's mouth, because Katie Taylor, not only is she a great women's fighter, but she's a great role model for the sport. She's apparently the most popular sports person in Ireland, male or female. And there's a reason for that, because she's humble. You know what I mean? She knows how to ingratiate herself with people. She carries herself well. Unfortunately, the same can't be said all the time of Claressa. And it's a shame, because Claressa she can be very entertaining, and she can be, you know what I mean, speak very lucidly and she can articulate herself well. But then you hear this other stuff, man, you think, come on, man, really? You're just making yourself look really silly right now.
What's the obsession with the beating men thing? Ronda Rousey did it. Remember when she said that she'd beat Floyd?
Yeah.
Like Claressa, I want to see her, you know, there's stuff for her to do in the women's game. Do you know what I mean? Like Savannah Marshall, for example.
Exactly. I mean, it's disrespectful to her opponent. You're fighting another undefeated fighter, right? Decare. I mean, we don't know too much about her. It's highly unlikely she's going to beat Claressa. But listen, I'm sure that she's a good fighter. Otherwise, she wouldn't be in this position, you'd like to think. So Claressa's attention should be on this fight, on this opponent. Mentioning men, what's that going to do, man? I mean, it's just cornball stuff. You know what I mean? And again, like she says some things that, if anything, this is the type of thing that's going to put people off her, not on her. You know what I'm saying? So disappointing, man. Disappointing.
I was looking in the comments. I'm seeing people say, "Oh, fight Chisora then," and all this. I'm just like, but this is what you set yourself up for when you say stuff like that.
Yeah, it's just nonsense, and no one believes it. No one believes it. Even Claressa herself doesn't believe that nonsense. It's just clout chasing in the extreme. And unfortunately, we live in an era of social media where people do this stuff. I remember years ago, we had Charlie Zelenoff calling out Wilder and all that stuff, till in the end, Wilder had to beat him down and video it and put it out there for him to finally just get the hell out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is the type of thing, a low-level thing that Claressa's doing as well. Just clout chasing and just making yourself look stupid at the same time. Because like I said, listen, Claressa Shields has had, what, 9 fights or 10 fights, is it? Right? And she's had 2 knockouts. So she's not a big puncher, even by women's standards. So how the hell are you going to go in there and beat Keith Thurman?
Big Lou's put here, she could beat most men. However, none of those men would be a professional boxer in her weight class or above. Big up Robbie here. Robbie from AFTV. I see him walk past.
Keep sneaking in on these videos, man.
I know you keep putting in there, man. We need to get you on.
When you bringing me on, man? I've got better knowledge,
man.
I've got better knowledge than you.
But yeah, so Laurie, with that, yeah, what Big Lou said there, she could beat most men. However, none of these men would be a professional. Yeah, look, she could beat us. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah, she could beat most men at AFTV, including me. But that doesn't mean to say she's going to beat Keith Thurman. Listen, I just thought that if you want to promote yourself, Claressa, there's far more innovative and creative ways you could have sat down with your team and come up with as a way of promoting yourself, rather than go down, you look stupid, Claressa. That's what I think. And you know what I mean? Like I said before, she's had 9-10 fights. Of those fights, that are all wins, by the way, she's only had 2 by knockout. And in a couple of those fights, she's been dropped herself. You know what I mean? I think when she fought Anna Gabriel, she got dropped by a jab. So you think Keith Thurman, one of the most athletically gifted, one of the hardest punching welterweights alive today, you honestly trying to tell us that you could go in there and beat Keith Thurman? Triple G, one of the biggest punchers of the last decade, middleweight, you know what I mean? A big solid man. He probably boils down to 12 stone from about 14 and a half stone. You know what I mean? You're telling us that you can beat these guys. Well, just because you had a sparring session with Errol Spence and you so-called held your own. It's ridiculous. It just makes her look silly. And listen, I'm a fan of Claressa. That's why I was so disappointed when I saw this nonsense. And it was like I said, not only was it nonsense, it was disrespectful.
Conrad has said here, do you think it's a good idea for her to fight on pay-per-view? Yeah, because this is an all-female pay-per-view show, this is. It's the first one that's happening. So that's very good for women's boxing as well. But Conrad has said here, do you think it's a good idea for her to fight on pay-per-view, or does she miss out on the opportunity to attract new fans on free TV? Good question.
It is a good question. I must admit, I was surprised to see her go down the pay-per-view route. However, I understand in America, as there is in this country, there's a big push to try and, get women's sport out there and, to present it in a more favorable light. Although for those reasons, I would have thought that free TV would have been a better option. But you know what? Fair play to her if she does attract some good numbers and make some good money out of this fight, because she deserves it. I mean, even though, like I said, some of the stuff that she says outside the ring, I don't endorse. She's a tremendous fighter, so she deserves to be well compensated for her talents. Because listen, beyond any shadow of a doubt, she's the best fighter in women's boxing today. Tremendous talent, 2-time gold medalist, several titles in the pro game. Going for yet another title this week to be undisputed. You can't argue with those stats, man. You can't.
Shane's put here, all publicity is good publicity. All publicity is good publicity. And then he's put, I don't mind what Claressa said. Conrad Boxing has said, thoughts on Chisora calling Parker at 1 a.m. and making chicken noises. We're going to get onto that. We'll get onto that after this, actually. Okay. And Jeff TV has said, my auntie can give Shields a go. So, yeah, man. Yeah, listen, I'm a big fan of Claressa Shields as well. And I get it. What she's saying is really to help drive attention to her pay-per-view, if I'm honest. I know she said it before, things like how she could beat Keith Thurman and Triple G and whatever, but this sort of thing has got people talking. It's got me talking. It's the title of my podcast. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. She knows what she's doing. Whether you agree, like Shane's right here, all publicity is good publicity because we're talking about it, and it's going to drive people to her pay-per-view. Might not make them buy it.
Of that, all publicity is good publicity is typical of how the younger people think today in terms of social media, which is why you get people doing these mad ass pranks on social media, doing all sorts of stuff on Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok and all that. So maybe I'm showing my age a little bit here, but I mean, like I said, I think that Claressa, her and her team could have come up with better ways to promote the fight than chatting nonsense like this. But listen, you know what? If it gets her a few more pay-per-views, then she will argue that she's done her job. But for me, I thought it was disrespectful.
Yeah, I thought it was disrespectful as well. I didn't like seeing it, if I'm honest. I didn't. But let's talk about Joseph Parker and Junior Farr, who fought at the weekend. Boy, man, I mean, have to big up Shane, first of all, because he was on this podcast last week, and he literally said it to the T how that fight was going to be. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a great fight to watch at all. a lot of clinching. You know, I think Jeff said that they were slow dancing at one point. But yeah, Parker got the nod. So, you know, he got the victory there. But like, your thoughts on that performance and Joseph Parker? Like, what's your thoughts on Joseph Parker right now?
The first thing I want to do is shout out Shane, because Shane got it absolutely right when he described it. I think he described it as an absolute snooze fest, and it was. I mean, the only thing I can say about that fight is that because of the time difference down under, is that when that fight was being shown, I'd actually got up out of bed not too long and started watching it. You know what I mean? Because of the time difference, because you're like 24 hours behind or whatever it is. But that fight, man, was one of the worst fights I've seen. Not only was it boring, but I was also alarmed at the lack of skill shown by both those protagonists.
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there quickly. Literally, just now, while we're talking about Joseph Parker, it's just been confirmed that he split. This is breaking news, people. He split with his long-time trainer, Kevin Barry. Just literally after you were talking, I got that notification on my phone.
Okay.
So what's your reaction to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, for what's left in his career, he probably does need a new coach, because it's clear to me that he's not learning diddly squat. The standard of boxing in that fight, honestly, man, I've seen two amateurs in, you know what I mean, novice fighters provide more skill than that. It was terrible to watch. And Junior Farr was very disappointing with him. He did nothing. I mean, listen, I thought Parker won. It was a very poor fight. It was just a load of holding going on and smothering each other. You know what I mean? And then the way Junior Farr was talking after the fight, I could understand it, because all he tried to do was hug Parker during the fight. And I mean, then afterwards he was congratulating Parker and calling him a warrior. That was coded message for thanks, Joe, for not hurting me. You know what I mean? Because it was terrible. And this was supposed to be like the biggest fight in New Zealand for many years. If that's the gold standard in New Zealand, wow. Then I'm not being funny, man, but I was going to say something there, but I won't go there. But it was a terrible fight, man.
Junior Farr's post-fight interview was longer than Parker's, I think.
Yeah, he was just congratulating everyone, saying, "Oh, it's great, Liz. You're great. Thanks to all my fans." Whatever, man. And then what made me laugh as well was the commentary team. I think me and you were speaking after the fight, weren't we? They were trying to make out like this was a good fight. I was like, bro, if you're being serious, then that shows me the standard of boxing in New Zealand, then, if you think that this is a good fight. But yeah, to go back to it, man, I thought it was a poor spectacle, poor performance by both fighters. Parker won simply because he tried more. And he was a little more aggressive than Junior. Well, when I say a little more, he was a lot more, because Junior Farr, apart from the first round, didn't show any aggressive intent at all. All he did was hold and smother and throw the old jab, which had very little conviction in it. You know, I was very disappointed with him, actually. Very disappointed. With Parker, I knew what he's capable of, so I wasn't that disappointed with him, because all his fights tend to be like that.
Yeah. Go to the comments here quickly. Shane's put, I've said this before, the best thing for women is to put women's sport alongside men. The reason why other women's sports are more successful, like tennis, UFC, athletics, is because they run parallel with men's. Conrad Boxing has put here, that at least shows that he's still hungry and not delusional. And Ian Hamilton said, man, that fight reminded me of why big names don't call Parker out. He is frustrating to watch. If he was an animal in the wild, he'd be a zebra, whilst the division is... He's right. You know what I mean? He's right.
He's right. That's a very good analogy, actually.
That is a good analogy. He's right.
One of the things that's so frustrating about Parker, Darren, you touched on this last week, and you were absolutely right when you said that he's very athletically gifted. He's big. He's strong. He's got lots of fast twitch fibers. You can see he's an explosive athlete. Like I said to you, I saw a promotional video of this fight that they had last weekend prior to the fight, and it showed him on the track, and he looked good. You know what I mean? I mean, he wasn't reaching Usain Bolt levels, but you know what I'm saying? He probably outsprint Joshua and Fury and all them, man, easily on the track. The problem is, when he gets in the ring, man, he just, I don't know, man, he just doesn't impress at all. He was mildly impressive against someone, Winters or whatever it is, but then like Shane said last week, that was put into perspective when we saw Alan Babbage blow out the same opponent in less than 2 rounds a few months ago. So listen, he's not really going anywhere. And maybe he sat down and thought about his career and thought he needs to go in a new direction. So you know what? Credit to him for that, because he's been with Kevin Barry for a long time, man, and it's not happening. So yeah. I don't know why they split. I don't know if it's to do with money or whether it's a change in direction or change in approach. But if it is a change in approach or wanting to learn some new stuff, then he's probably made the right decision, because he's got the tools, but the mindset and the skills level is way off what it should be.
Just reading it here, the pair have put out a joint statement saying the decision was mutual, with Kevin Barry based in Vegas and Parker. This doesn't fill me with too much hope. The decision was mutual, with Barry based in Vegas and Parker wanted to spend more time in New Zealand. If anything, Parker should be trying to get out and trying to stay somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Base himself somewhere. Who would you like to see Parker get with as a trainer now? Because Muhammad has said here that Parker should get Tyson Fury's trainer. What's his name? I forgot his name now, but yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, that would be a good trainer for him. Somebody that will make him more aggressive. You know, dare I say it, maybe a Freddie Roach. Maybe
Freddie Roach might be. He's a noted trainer that likes to his fighters to fight with aggressive intent. Maybe that would. But then would Freddie Roach take him on? I don't know.
They take on Parker. Parker's got ability, man. He's got ability. He's got it. He just needs to get that out of him. And
yeah, would Freddie Roach want to be associated with a loser? I mean, not being funny.
A loser?
Well, when I say loser, he's not going to go anywhere, is he? Let's be honest, man. He's not. He's not. I'll be very surprised. Listen, did you see Dominic Brazil the other day? Right? And he had Abel Sanchez in his corner. So you would have thought he had Virgil Hunter when he got knocked out by Deontay Wilder. And like a lot of boxers do, when they lose or don't look good, the first thing they want to do is get rid of their trainer. So he rocks up to his next fight. This is Dominic Brazil, having got knocked out by Wilder with Virgil Hunter, who's a very good trainer. He then decides to get rid of Virgil Hunter, and he got Abel Sanchez for this fight that he fought against Otto Wallin. Yeah, he looked absolutely terrible, despite prior to the fight in the pre-fight interviews saying how much he'd improved under Abel Sanchez, and they were learning new things, and they were doing this and they were doing that. On fight night, he looked terrible, worse than he'd ever looked. Yeah. And now the talk is that he's going to get another trainer. So that's what I'm saying. Will Freddie Roach want to be associated with something like that? I don't know.
Yeah. Going back to some of these comments here, Dwayne B has put, I would love to see Parker join the Kronk gym, but if he is not leaving New Zealand, I guess not. Yeah, what's that about, man? I mean, what? You want to stay in New Zealand? I mean, wouldn't you want to... See, this is what I'm talking about with Parker. Like, why do you not want to go out there and look to fight the best competition at heavyweight? Why are you not giving it one last go? What sort of sparring partners and training are you going to get in New Zealand?
Well, you know what? He's probably got a rematch clause with Junior Fall.
Conrad Boxing has said here...
Players out there, man. You know what I mean?
Conrad Boxing has said here, what? Yesterday, his manager...
Maybe Sonny Bill Williams, who's a rugby player who actually had a few fights back in the day. Maybe he's coming out of retirement to fight Junior Joseph Parker.
Conrad has said here, what? Yesterday, his manager said they're trying to send Parker out very soon as they don't have proper sparring partners in New Zealand. Okay, so a bit of conflict there. Hopefully that is the case. But just that report I read, Conrad, is saying that he wants to spend more time in New Zealand. So I don't know. Shane's put, hell no. I wouldn't want him to get Fury's trainer. All he would do is admire Fury. Yeah, he would literally. Yeah. We spoke about that last week. Like the way how he talks about Fury is a bit weird for me. Shane Willoughby's also put, I like Abel Sanchez for Joseph Parker. Mohammed has put,
Abel Sanchez didn't do a lot for Dominic Brazil, did he? So sometimes it's not the coach, you know. Sometimes the guys just haven't got it. And if you just link up with
Parker's a lot more talented than Dominic Brazil. Yeah,
that's true. But how much is he going to improve him? That's my point.
Mohammed just put here, yeah, but if Parker wants to fight the best or one of the best, is Fury and Tyson's trainer ain't going to train both of them. Yeah, so it's a conflict of interest, really. Ian Hamilton has put, if he gets Fury's trainer, he'd be admiring Fury even more. Perhaps have a shrine to him whilst watching him train. Parker needs a trainer who trains heavyweights a lot. Yeah. Forget that. Forget him joining Fury's camp, man. He's already talking about Fury so much. I don't think that's a good idea either. But, you know, it wouldn't surprise me.
Have they not issued a statement as to why they split?
There is I think they released a joint statement. I haven't read it now, but I'll read it after the show, and then I'll put a post up about it. I'll let you know.
Meaning that, is it just the distance between them? Because, you know.
Well, the news report that I've read here has said that the pair have put out a joint statement saying the decision was mutual, with Barry based in Vegas and Parker wanting to spend more time in New Zealand.
Well, you know what? Whatever he decides, he decides. I'm not excited by anything he does, man. I've seen Joseph Parker fight too many times now to be excited about any of his fights. Let him fight Derek Chisora, man. I think that's a good fight, because at least we know that Derek will bring it. Whether Parker wants to bring it or not, Derek will. And Derek's been calling him out. That's an interesting fight. I wouldn't pay any pay-per-view money to watch it, but if you could get it on free TV, on Sky or the DAZN or whatever, I would watch it. And I would fancy Derek to beat him. Whether Derek would get the decision over him is another matter. But I think Derek could beat him, man. Parker, nah, not for me. I'd concentrate on some of the other young guys coming up, the likes of Jared Big Baby Anderson, who I spoke about before on your show, Hrgovic, the Italian heavyweight. You know what I mean? There's other guys around there, man. There's a Kaylee in Britain. There's other guys that we should be focusing on. Parker's had his chance. He's let us down too many times. Last Saturday was another example of him letting down the boxing public. Parker, just go away, man. You know what I mean? Just go away.
Sounds like you're done with Parker, man.
Do some dancing in your kitchen, you and your wife, like you was doing in COVID. That's what you're more suited to, that type of entertainment. You know what I mean? Goofy stuff, cornball stuff. That's what Joseph Parker's good at. I don't want to see him in a ring anymore, to be honest with you.
Let's talk about another heavyweight then, who's going to be fighting this week. And this is a heavyweight that is on the rise. Do you know what I mean? Got huge potential to do a lot in the heavyweight division. He's going to be fighting this weekend, and that's Tony Yoka. Tony Yoka's going to be fighting Joel Dieko. It's for like a European. It's not the actual European title. I think it's one of them secondary European belts. But the fact is, yeah, Tony Yoka's going to be in action. We know him pretty well, you know, obviously from the Olympic Games. He defeated Joe Joyce. And Tony Yoka, for me, man, he's amongst a lot of names in the heavyweight division. He's one of them, has got a bright future. So he's going to be headlining this weekend. I think it's on Friday, taking on Dieko. And, you know, I think his wife is a fighter as well, isn't she? Yeah, she's going to be on the undercard as well. I think they're going to do that. So that'll be interesting. I think they've done it before. But Tony Yoka, what's your thoughts on him? Do you think that he could be some guy to look at for the future at the heavyweight division?
Yeah, of course. You know what? I should have mentioned him. Yeah, I meant to mention him, but for some reason I didn't. He has flown under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, hasn't he?
Olympic gold medalist. Actually, his wife won a gold medal at those same games as well. They created history that day. Him and his wife, they both won gold medals for France. He's big, he's strong, he's got good skills, he's got great amateur pedigree. He's definitely one for the future. I am a little concerned, actually, though, that there's some controversy surrounding earlier in his career when he was accused of not turning up for drugs tests. Now that does, you know what I feel about ped takers. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that he is, because he's not been convicted of it, but that I don't like the sound of that, to be honest. That's very suspicious to me. But hey, that's another story. But yeah, in terms of his talent and ability, yeah, man, bring it on. Yeah, he looks good. He's unbeaten. He seems to have a good KO percentage as well. He gets guys out of there, although he's not a big one-punch hitter. But he's definitely in the mix. I think the fact that he's been fighting out of France has meant that he's flown under the radar a little bit. Maybe him and his team, they need to get out there and get some fights in America or even this country without much, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, bring it on. Yeah. Who's the guy who's fighting? Dieko.
Yeah, Joel Dieko, yeah.
Where's he from?
Oh, is he Nigerian? I can't remember now. But yeah, Tony Yoka will be expected to win. Yeah, apologies, I can't provide an in-depth preview for this one, but yeah, Tony Yoka for me, yeah, why wouldn't he base himself? I mean, boxing's not particularly big in France, is it? But he's a superstar over there, isn't he? He's quite big over there.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe he feels that he's got the clap behind him over there, that he doesn't have to travel. But at some point, he's going to have to. It's a bit like Hrgovic.
And Otto Wallin as well.
Yeah, yeah. These guys going to have to, you know, fight in America or at least fight in Britain, because at the end of the day, that's where the money is. That's where the spotlight is, you know. So at some stage, he's going to have to make that transition. But in the meantime, he's doing good things. He's obviously very talented. Be interesting to see who he fights when he starts stepping up. You know what I mean?
Who would you like to see him fight?
Well,
what fight would you like if you was his manager? What would you like to see him? What would be your next fight for him?
That's a good question. You listen, after he's had these rudimentary wins that he's accumulating, he's going to have to start upping the levels and start fighting guys with a name, even if they wouldn't be favored to beat him. He's got to have a couple of names on his record to bring him to the attention of not even just boxing fans, but the casual fans as well. He's got to have a few names on his record, you know what I mean? So that's what they need to be looking at. I'm surprised Derek Chisora ain't got the call or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but right, people like that, you know what I mean? Povetkin, you know what I mean? There's guys out there that he should be looking to fight to step his profile up, you know what I mean? So yeah, guys like that, guys who are a name, not necessarily gonna beat him or even maybe even give him too much trouble, but just names on his record that will help to increase his profile.
Ian Hamilton has said here, for the record, Yoka has missed 4 drugs tests.
Wow.
4. Make of that what you will. The heavyweight division, I need to look at 4.
I thought it was 2, but 4. Wow. Now that is very alarming. That is very, maybe that's why he wants to stay in France.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's why he's not coming out into the big bad play field. You know what I mean? Very concerned. If that is true, I'll have to look that up, because I thought it was 2 tests he'd missed. 2 is bad enough. 1 is bad enough. But 4?
4?
Why has he not been banned for a long time?
Ian's also said here, the heavyweight division is as stacked as ever. Yeah, I'm loving heavyweight right now, man. It's my favorite division. Yoka needs some names on his record to make some noise. Yeah, I agree.
What about Huey Fury? That'd be a decent fight.
Yeah, who's Fury scheduled to fight right now?
Well, he's another one that's flattered to deceive, isn't he? Huey Fury.
Don't think that'd be a very good fight.
Huey Fury would probably look at Yoka as a bit of a backward step, because Huey Fury will probably, after the AJ Fury thing is resolved, he'll be looking to fight for titles, I would have thought, because he's already fought for the WBO. So I don't think he's going to entertain Yoka, is he? He's going to want to try and pursue a world title belt. He's not going to fight his cousin, obviously, if Tyson Fury wins, but I don't think he'll be looking at Tony Yoka anytime soon. Plus, he'd probably get beaten by Yoka as well. So,
plus,
yeah.
I don't think it'd be a very good fight either.
Well, that's true.
Conrad has said here, Yoka is fighting Dieko, a cruiserweight. Yeah, he's a natural cruiserweight, Dieko is. So it's just a stay busy fight. So yeah, that's going to be taking place on Friday. And listen, before we go, man, I just want to get your thoughts on, we got some good news this week, some very good news. And that was the announcement, the official announcement of Josh Taylor fighting Jose Ramirez. All the marbles are going to be on the line. This is what we want, isn't it, in boxing? Undisputed title on the line. You know, all 4 of the belts will be on the show. 2 undefeated fighters, Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor. And this is a great fight. And you have to say, man, Josh Taylor, his career progression has been phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? What he's achieved in his short space of time. So going into that fight, do you look at him as the favorite over Ramirez, who is dangerous himself? He can punch. We saw him look very good in that win over Maurice Hooker. And he didn't look very good against, who was it? What's his name again? The guy who Crawford beat. Either way, yeah, I'm sure someone will remind me. But Ramirez and Taylor's a very good fight. One that I'm looking forward to. What's your early thoughts on that announcement? Was you happy to hear that getting made?
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I've spoken a lot on your shows about ducking and, you know what I mean, and cherry picking and all the rest of it. Credit to both guys getting this fight made. It's a great fight. I would give a slight edge towards Taylor, but then having said that, it looks as though the fight's going to be in America, which will obviously suit Ramirez a bit more because he's Mexican descent, but he's American to all intents and purposes. Yeah, man, I look forward to that fight. Great fight, you know what I mean? And fair play to Josh Taylor, man, for seeking out that fight. I know he was proactive in trying to get that fight made. He's been calling out Ramirez for a while. So yeah, man, credit to both guys. It's a great fight. You know what I mean?
Victor Postal. That's who Ramirez fought.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Shows how good a fighter Crawford was, because when he fought Postal was in his element at that time. Remember, he was unbeaten and he was blowing guys out and he was big and he was strong. And I remember Freddie Roach saying Crawford was going to be an easy fight for him. We're going to knock him out. You know what I mean? And stuff. And you saw what Crawford did to Postal, dropped him a couple of times and won easy. And at that time, Postal was a bit of a boogeyman in that division. So it goes to show you what Crawford's done in his way to clearing out the division and becoming the number one. That is why I keep saying that, to me, Crawford is the number one pound for pound. But anyway, enough of Crawford for now. Yeah, fair play, man, to Josh Taylor. He was, from what I understand, from what I could see, he was calling out Ramirez and all the other guys, man. He wanted this fight. He wants to clean up the division. He's even talking about going up to 147 and challenging Crawford and Spence. This is what I like to see. I mean, Josh Taylor on his laurels, having won the WBS tournament. He could have rested on his laurels and doing what some other people I could care to mention are, which is just going through the rankings and selecting the lowest ranked or styles that he knows he could overcome easily. But he's actively going out there and seeking challenges. And so fair play to him for that.
This is what we want to see. This is exactly the sort of behavior that we want to see.
That's right.
We're not seeing it enough, are we?
We're not. And the other thing I'd like to say about Josh Taylor as well is that, I mean, a lot of people, myself included, have been lamenting the state of British boxing. But, you know what I mean? Like I said last week on your show, AJ Fury and Josh Taylor and guys like that, they rep British boxing very well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of what they do in the ring anyway, you know what I mean? They rep British boxing very well. Josh Taylor is respected right across the world in terms of his talent. He's a former outstanding amateur as well, former Commonwealth Games champion, Olympic Games contender. Yeah, I've been watching for a while, man. I've always been impressed by his skills and his talent.
Ian Hamilton has put here, Tony Yoka got a 2-year ban in France. Could have fought anywhere, but actually served it because he wants to fight in France. Interesting, yeah.
When a man's failed a test 4 times, that's not by coincidence, is it really, is it?
Well, missed the test, but yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, when he's not turned up for tests 4 times, there's something quite alarming about that, to be honest. I'll have to try and delve into what he gave as his reasons as to why he missed those tests. Maybe there's a plausible explanation, but it don't look great, does it?
No.
Doesn't look great.
Ian Hamilton said here, boy, I cannot wait for Taylor versus Ramirez. I live in Scotland and I'm already organising to watch this with all my Scottish friends. I'm convinced that Josh wins. He doesn't lack the self-belief.
You know what? I was going to say, actually, and thanks to Ian for that comment. I watched an interview the other day online with Josh Taylor. And I have to say, I was quite struck with how confident and self-assured he is, man. You know what I mean? And he looked like he was being honest. It wasn't bravado. It wasn't for show. He was talking about his background and what he was like growing up as a kid, how he came into boxing. And I must say, listen, some of the stuff that Josh Taylor does outside the ring, I have to say, hasn't always impressed me. But in terms of his mentality towards boxing, man, and how he sees himself and how confident and self-assured, and you know what I mean, I was mightily impressed by it, man. And I can see now why he's having such a successful career, because he's not just a beast physically, man, but the guy is very, very self-confident and assured. So yeah, I agree with Ian about that, man. Yeah, he did impress.
Conrad Boxing has put here, and the winner goes versus and the winner either gets Lopez or Crawford. Teofimo Lopez or Terence Crawford, the winner for Taylor and Ramirez, possibly. Could you see that down the line?
I could see him fighting Lopez. Crawford looks like he might be tied up for the next 6 months. Yeah, I mean, we know that Crawford has got a fight sort of being spoken about at the moment with Sean Porter. And I think he's still holding out hopes for the Errol Spence fight, whether he gets that or not. Probably won't, but I don't know. But yeah, so listen, if he beats Ramirez, I would imagine he will go up to welterweight at some point, unless he's going to stick around and give Lopez a chance. But
at welterweight.
I couldn't see Teofimo Lopez beating Josh Taylor. Could you?
I'd pick Taylor.
Yeah, I would pick Taylor as well.
Taylor as a welterweight, man. How fascinating would that be?
Well, he's got the body dimensions. I think he's tall for the light welter, isn't he? He's what, 5'10", 5'11", tall, rangy guy. He could easily put on another 7 pounds. He probably, I don't know if struggle, but I'm sure that he has to work anyway to make the weight he does now. Because he's a big light welter. I mean, you saw when he fought Regis Prograis, he towered over it. You know what I mean?
No, I put this as my my fantasy matchup. I do a Mythical Mondays every Monday, and this was a few weeks ago, so it was a while ago. But Josh Taylor and Amir Khan. Now I know you're going to think of Amir Khan right now, but Amir Khan in his prime was setting the world alight as well at a time. Who would have won if they fought in their prime for prime? Josh Taylor, Amir Khan. How would you see that fight?
It would be a good fight. It would be a competitive fight because Amir Khan
like when he beat Maidana and when he beat Judah. I know that was more upper. I think that was that was at light welterweight.
That would be a great fight. But you know what? I'll probably have to lean towards Josh Taylor in a hard fought fight. I'll give Taylor the edge. He's got better chin. Yeah, I think I'd lean towards Taylor. Although I could see a fight whereby in the early rounds, Amir Khan with his speed and his fast feet would probably race into a lead. But I could see Taylor pulling it back down the stretch and winning either by late stoppage or by points. Probably points.
Yeah, I could see it. I think with Khan's speed, I think because Taylor can get hit. You know, he's not the slickest guy in the world. We saw, he has had facial damage quite a few times in his fights, but he's a very tough man. So I could see that happening as well. I could see Khan probably lighting him up the first couple of rounds. But I can think later on, I think Taylor would grind him down, man. I think that's what would happen.
When someone's got the mindset of a Josh, and you can see it in the way he fights as well. He's actually quite spiteful in the ring. I mean, he looks like one of those guys that enjoys inflicting punishment on people.
Yeah.
So it makes him very watchable. I mean, I know that sounds that sounds a certain way, but yeah, he looks like one of those guys that he enjoys boxing. He enjoys.
But you need that attitude, don't you? That's what we asked Parker to have. That sort of attitude, right?
Yeah, well, listen, man, Parker's never going to develop that. You know what I mean? It's too late for him to develop that now, man. I just don't think Parker's that good anyway.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's mastered the fundamentals of boxing in that way. He's not shown me that. I mean, he was doing those things he was doing against Junior Farr. Those mistakes he was making, I've been seeing him doing the same mistakes since I first saw it, which is basically just lunges in, throwing a 1-2 with his head down.
Yeah.
And he was poor, not for the first time.
Big Lou put in the comment here.
Joseph Parker cannot fight inside. All he does is hold, which is why his fights just look so boring.
Big Lou said here, I like Taylor at welterweight. Yeah, I like that too. But let's see him. Obviously, he's got a big fight against Ramirez first, but then we could talk about him at welter. But yeah, Josh Taylor against Jose Ramirez, man, that's been confirmed for May. And it's great to see that we're getting these fights on. But listen, we're going to have to wrap it up anyway. We're well over an hour into the show now, hour and 18 minutes. So as always, it's been another great show. We've had some great comments. It's been fire today. And listen, man, look, we've got some guy in the background there. He looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's like London. I think he wants to fight with Junior Farr.
Oh, he put him in against Yildrim.
No, that's a mismatch. You know what I mean? Yildrim will probably quit after a few rounds. Yeah.
But listen, yeah, we're going to wrap it up today, man.
Yeah. Listen, man, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Great show as usual. Smash the like button, people. Subscribe to the channel.
That's it, man. Yeah, we're out for this week, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace.
We're out.